Welcome to the Howie Silbiger Show on the True Talk Radio Network. Get in on the conversation. Call 1-877-669-1292.
And I'm Howie Silbiger, the host of the Howie Silbiger Show right here on the True Talk Radio Network. Thank you so much for joining me. I do appreciate you being here. I'm happy to be here with you, and I invite you to call in. Number to call to get in on the conversation is 1-877-669-1292. That's 1-877-669-1292. That is the number to reach us here on the Howie Silbiger Show. In just a minute or two, we'll be joined by my long-suffering producer, my good friend, Sheldon Eric Freed. He hates when I call him a long-suffering producer. He says, Howie, it's been 6 years already. I'm not suffering anymore. Please stop calling me a long-suffering producer. Please stop. Just stop doing that, Howie. Just stop, he tells me. But I don't listen to him because I'm that kind of guy, right? So Sheldon Eric Freed will be joining me in just a minute or two. And of course, we invite you to call in. Numbers to call, once again, 1-877-669-1292. Sheldon, you are my long-suffering producer. You've been on the show for a long time. And,
please, I suffered enough, Howie.
And I do appreciate you being here. And you know, I wanted to start the show off talking about, of course, my old friend, Father John Walsh, who died last week.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a very sad thing that Father John died. I was his radio producer for about 7 years, and you know, we spent every Sunday night together. He was a good guy, and you know, when the good guys go, it's very sad, and it kind of upset me. I was upset for all week over that. Did you know him at all?
I really took it hard. I took it real hard.
I mean, you were friends with him too?
Yeah, I've known him for many years also, and I remember we once in one of the holidays, the Christmas holidays, invited a bunch of people. I don't know if you were with us to his house.
No, I wasn't there, no.
Okay, I was invited to his house, and the house was adjacent to the church he used to work at.
Right.
And so we had a Christmas tree and a Hanukkah and the Hanukkah menorah.
Interesting.
And he had a bunch of people over at his house, and we were just reminiscing and talking about so many wonderful things. And I met his brother, who was a policeman in the city of Calgary.
Okay.
And but he was such a warm, nice person. He was loved by everybody. And I'll say one thing: hats off to Paperman and Sons for putting it out there, for putting the information about him out there, so people like you and myself were able to actually go on the Paperman site and be able to send our condolences. And I actually watched the memorial, his funeral. Very, very touching funeral.
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to watch the funeral. Somebody sent me the link, and I couldn't.
Yeah, I think I sent you the link.
And I really couldn't.
I'll send it to you again.
I really couldn't bring myself to watch it.
Yeah, it was a very painful.
It's tough.
And the thing was, the irony of the whole thing, he was supposed to preside over a funeral. And he passed away going up in the elevator to the funeral.
Wow, he died on the way to preside over a funeral.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. Talk about being creepy and talking about all this. But he was such a nice man. He was loved by everybody. Didn't make a difference what religion a person was. He was so highly respected. And when I found out, as a matter of fact, a mutual friend of ours, Mike Babbins, sent me on a chat. Every once in a while, he sends me things on Facebook. But sometimes with him, I never know if he's joking or he was serious. But he sent me a thing. He says, by the way, did you know that Father John Walsh died? And I said, what? And he sent me the link. And I was like, I stood there for like 5 minutes, totally frozen. And I remember last month, he wished me a happy anniversary for being on True Talk Radio, my seventh year anniversary.
Yeah,
he sent me a happy anniversary thing.
When I spoke to him last week, he wanted to come onto the show because he wanted to push the Nazareth house. He wanted us to promote him. So I said, sure, no problem. 2 weeks ago, I spoke to him.
And he sounded fine 2 weeks ago, right? Like there was no.
Of course.
You've never thought because it was a sudden heart attack, and I remember when I would shake hands with him, he had such a powerful handshake. like such a strong handshake, like you wouldn't believe. Like but he was a very mild mannered, very a wonderful, warm man. My kids have met him. My kids have met him on several occasions. My ex girlfriend met him. He helped her on certain things, and he's so widely missed. And I think even today we still talk about it sometimes on the chat on Facebook. And his family and everything. My sympathies go out to everybody in his family. And it's such a tragedy, and he's done so much work for the homeless, the underprivileged.
And the sad part is that that they had just opened a new house in his name.
Yeah,
to honor him.
And it just such a, I don't remember how old he was.
He was 78.
78. So I just hope that in the heavens above, that I'm sure God will embrace him, and all we could say is that he should be in peace, and may the work continue from other people that he's entrusted, and I really hope that the other people will step up to the plate and do the same wonderful work that the late Father John has done. God rest his soul, and may he rest in peace.
Amen.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on, we learned something new this week, Sheldon, that we didn't know before, and this is something that I think we should remember, and something that we should keep in mind. Now, I had my suspicions, but it's been confirmed this week, and I just wanted to talk about this a little bit. I knew that the COVID virus. I knew the COVID virus was discriminatory, right? It's very discriminatory on who it affects. So I knew already that the COVID virus does not affect Black Lives Matter protesters, for instance. So when 100,000 Black Lives Matter protesters go into the street, they don't get infected by COVID. That's not a big COVID risk, apparently, right? And then I know that that COVID doesn't affect Democrats, because when Joe Biden gets elected, a bunch of people standing in the streets celebrating Joe Biden's no socially distancing, no masks, doesn't really matter. A bunch of people, celebrating in the streets are not a super spreader event like a Donald Trump rally. So they wouldn't be. So that's not considered a super spreader event. And now the Quebec government has expanded this notion even farther, and has told us that that the COVID virus is now Catholic. And so the COVID virus celebrates Christmas, apparently. So when Indian people, celebrated the Diwali just last week, they weren't allowed to gather and as family as they usually do at the end of during Diwali to celebrate their holiday, because that was too much of a risk for COVID. And when Jews had Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and now we have Hanukkah coming up, that's too much of a risk if Jewish people get together and eat together to celebrate their holiday. And of course, Muslims, after Ramadan last month, they weren't allowed to gather either, because that was way too risky of a COVID spreading event. But apparently COVID is going on vacation, Sheldon. COVID is taking a break. And that break is happening for 4 days around Christmas time. So the Quebec government has allowed citizens for 4 days, just over the course of Christmas, the 4 days around Christmas, they've allowed the Quebec citizens to gather in groups of 10 in their homes to celebrate Christmas. Not only that, Sheldon, but this whole concept of bubbles, forget that. I mean, COVID doesn't know about bubbles, not around the holiday time. So you could have 10 people come to your house. Those people could drink with you and could celebrate with you. Then those people could leave and 10 more people could come in. And it doesn't matter how many groups of 10 come to your house, because COVID won't attack you if you're celebrating Christmas, Sheldon. And I think it's a Christmas miracle. It's making me a believer. I said, wow, imagine that. COVID won't attack you if you're a Catholic and celebrating Christmas, but God forbid you should go to the synagogue on Saturday. God forbid you should go to the church on Sunday, because COVID's coming to get you.
You can't say this with a straight face.
But the 4 days around Christmas time, COVID's going on vacation. He's gone. He's out of town. Leave him alone.
Yeah, go to the travel agent and book your holiday now because it's on vacation.
Because COVID's on vacation. I mean, what kind of lunacy is this, Sheldon? What kind of lunacy are we living in here?
You know, it's funny. It's almost like the Just for Laughs festival.
It's
can't
crazy.
make this stuff up. You just can't. Well, let's face it. I was saying that with other people, I said, honestly, does any of these Quebec governments surprise you? If you're not Francophone and if you're not Christian, they frankly don't care. They would love if anybody that was not Francophone or Christian to move out, and any other country, French-speaking people and Christian to be welcomed here. Let's face facts. Previous governments would have done the same thing. Unless there's going to be a Jewish English politician that's going to be running in this province, and that's going to happen way after we're gone, way after my kids are gone, and maybe God knows how many generations later, if any, that's ever going to happen. So that's not going to happen with this government. That hasn't happened with the past governments, and it won't happen with governments in the future. Now, in the past governments, we never had COVID, obviously, but now that we have COVID, it basically entrenches the fact that the government doesn't care. I mean, same thing when it came to instead of the $5 million,
Sheldon, you should be acknowledging the fact that the government realized the COVID miracle. I mean, why aren't you acknowledging this, Sheldon?
Oh yeah, I'm acknowledging that. Give me 1 second to give them sympathies.
It's the COVID miracle, Sheldon.
Yeah,
COVID is disappearing for 4 days. Meet with as many people as you want. Meet with as many people.
Jerry Falwell, and I say, praise the Lord. Let the COVID vacation come down. I said, praise the Lord.
Meet with as many people as you want, Sheldon. Do whatever you want. I'm surprised they're not
go on vacation.
I'm surprised they're not opening restaurants and bars. Come on, COVID's gone for 4 days.
Yeah, you see, like Toronto has gone on a big shutdown in the city. It's one of the biggest since I think when COVID first came out, and they shut down a lot of restaurants and pretty much look. New York City closed all the schools.
Yeah,
it's going to be online learning. And the thing is, that should have happened here, but the thing was they didn't use their heads because at the same time, parents said, "Well, we need to go to work. We need to go to work." Well, it's fine and dandy. Their kids could wind up getting it. Teachers can wind up getting it, and then they can bring it to the parents.
Right.
So where is the logic in this whole thing? I don't know. And you and I could rack our brains. You and I could discuss this till the cows come home. We will never get a logical answer. This government has completely botched everything. And the thing is, here's a perfect example, especially for the people that live in our broadcast location. Here's a government that spent an extra $5 million to enforce the French language.
Yeah.
It's the biggest budget increase. I mean, there's been increases in the budgets in the OQLF office. Okay, but now it's the biggest budget since its inception. $5 million. That $5 million could have gone to education, could have gone to healthcare, could have gone to also additional PPE equipment to combat the virus. That's where the money should have been spent. That's what the money should have been done to make the school safer, to make things safer for you as a teacher, and my girlfriend who's a teacher, and my cousin who's a teacher. That's what they should have done, okay? But instead of doing that, the French language was more important than anything else. The first wave, when we first got the first thing of COVID, the government went to the time and expense. Instead of making bilingual pamphlets about COVID, about what we needed to do and everything, it was unilaterally French. I live in a building, which you know of, that's 95% English, if not Russian. Okay, like 5% Russian. Very few Francophones in this place. Let me tell you that the recycling bin of those flyers were like up over the ceiling. We needed a green recyclable big bin because the small bins couldn't take the amount of flyers that were being tossed out. Right. And we had to go online to request to get an English language copy. And they gave those, and when they did send it was an English language copy. So they wasted more money. So instead of being bilingual, no, they didn't do that. So anything pertaining to the French language is it's foremost, and that's in the front. So the heck with protecting everybody, English, French, Jewish, Muslim, whoever, all on the same wavelength, because that would take brains, and they have brains up there, you know what, in the Watusi. Okay? So they did absolutely nothing. They put the politics in front. They put so this is what I'm saying, pertaining that if you're not French and you're not Christian, they don't care. Pure and simple.
So Sheldon,
It's as simple as that.
Sheldon. Now,
But but let me ask you something, Howie.
Yeah.
Does this surprise you?
No,
Really?
of course not.
Based on all the stuff
look,
that
the truth is, Sheldon, and let's be honest here. The truth is that these lockdowns are political. They're purely political. They don't care about your health or my health. They care.
something I don't
They
know.
care
Yeah.
about the fact that we're not going to overload the hospitals because we're sick. So these lockdowns are to save the hospitals, and that's it. They don't. Science has not proven that lockdowns are effective in any way whatsoever. So the lockdowns are strictly a political ploy to save the hospitals, and to make these politicians feel like they're gods, and that's
Yeah.
it. So a politician on a whim could come up and say, "All right, we're going to take a break from the lockdown and we'll go and we'll celebrate Christmas together. But Jews, don't you celebrate Hanukkah? No. And Indians, don't you go celebrate Diwali? No. And Muslims, God forbid, you should go and celebrate Ramadan. That's too dangerous. But Christmas is okay. We'll take 4 days and we'll celebrate Christmas. Yeah. And Dan be the consequences.
And what did he
this
call
is
it?
the problem.
I called it a moral contract.
A moral contract, right.
Now, a moral contract would encompass all religions and all people if there was supposed to be a moral contract. Which obviously there wasn't a moral contract. It was a religious contract.
We as citizens of this province have voluntarily given up our rights. We've voluntarily removed our freedoms and allowed the government to dictate how we're going to live our lives. And this is really, really upsetting. I mean, it's happening around the world. But it's really upsetting because we're never going to get these freedoms back. Now that they've had that taste of godlike power, they are never going to let it go. We are stuck under the thumb of the governments. Everyone in the world is in the same position. But we're stuck under the thumb of the governments because these governments are never going to let that kind of power go. Once they have that power, they're going to keep it. And that's a dictatorship kind of power, and we are in big trouble because we voluntarily allowed this to happen.
Okay, so then let me ask you as a question,
Yeah.
not as a debate, but as a question. What do citizens of the world do to these governments? What can we do to get the rights back at the same time keeping ourselves safe?
So
what do we do?
Let me use an analogy to the situation because it's a good analogy and it works. If you think back to 9/11, September 11th, 2001, a bunch of planes got hijacked. A couple of planes flew into the World Trade Center. 3,000 people plus people died that day. And just a week later, the U.S. passed the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act was a temporary measure allowing the U.S. government to spy on citizens without warrants. They were allowed to listen to your phone calls. They were allowed to record you. They were allowed to read your emails. They were allowed to do whatever they wanted if they thought that you were a security risk for the United States. And being a security risk for the United States or a terror risk wasn't well defined. So what happened was the Muslim community was unfairly targeted during that period. Not all Muslims are terrorists, in case everybody doesn't know that. And the Muslim community was unfairly targeted, as well as political dissidents, people who didn't agree with the government. They were targeted too. And the government was allowed to do this from the Patriot Act, which was a temporary act. The people voluntarily accepted this because they were afraid, because after 9/11, Americans were afraid. They voluntarily accepted the Patriot Act, which limited their power. We are now, 18 years later? And the clauses in the Patriot Act that took away some of the freedoms of Americans is still in effect 18 years later. So what are we saying here? We're saying that when people voluntarily give up their freedoms to the government realizes that the people don't care. And when the government realizes that the people don't care, the government keeps the power. There's no reason for them not to. Why would they give it up? So as citizens, we have to demand that the government listen to what we have to say. So as Jews, or as Muslims, or as Indians, you have to say, hey, wait a second. This is unfair. This is unjust. This is not right. if I couldn't meet with my family and I couldn't have a family dinner for Rosh Hashanah, because that was too dangerous of a COVID risk, and I couldn't meet with my family on Yom Kippur or on Sukkot or on Pesach, or I couldn't meet with my family for Hanukkah, then how the hell could the majority of the population meet with their families for Christmas? Explain to me how the minority meeting. So, I mean, how many Jews are in Canada? Let's say in Quebec, how many Jews are in Quebec? Maybe 80,000 to 85,000 Jews in Quebec. Mm-hmm. How many Christians are in Quebec? Maybe 3 million, 3.5 million. So, if 3.5 million people could meet with their families and have 10 people over and continuously turn over of 10 people, as many parties as they want over the course of 4 days, as long as they're limited to 10 people a party, and there's no time limits either, so they can have a party at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, have 1,000 people come to their home, and that's okay, and that's not considered a super spreader, then what the hell? And that's exactly the question we all have to ask. What the hell?
Exactly. Yeah. It was really, really evident when the government said, but again, at the same time, I'm not surprised at any of this stuff with the government. I'm not saying it's right. I didn't say
you have to be surprised, Sheldon. You have to be outraged. This is an outrageous act.
Of course I'm outraged.
So either everybody is locked down and everybody is equal in this lockdown because COVID is non-discriminatory and could affect everybody, or everybody isn't locked down and we take our chances in contracting it. It's like one or the other. It can't be halfway.
Like you also said, it's politics, Howie. So at the same time, they know that most of the Jewish people are not going to vote for him because, number one, most of Legault's votes were outside of Montreal.
Yeah. So
the thing is, most of the Jews are concentrated in like the Montreal area, Montreal, West Island, and West End.
Once again, the Legault government, the government represents all the citizens of Quebec, not just the people in the 450 or the people in the 438. They represent the entire province of Quebec.
So go tell them that.
Part of the province of Quebec.
They don't want to acknowledge that fact.
Part of the province of Quebec are the people living in Montreal, the minorities living in Montreal, and you cannot discriminate against them. That's outrageous. And I'm glad I'm seeing some people. I mean, not many, not very loudly, but I'm seeing some people standing up to this, and some people complaining about this. So I'm glad that somebody at least said something. It's not enough.
Yeah.
It's not as many as they should be. People aren't rioting in the streets or rallying in the streets as they should be. But at least somebody said something, which is better than nobody saying anything. 1-877-669-1292 is the number to call. Get in on the conversation here on the Howie Silbiger Show. 1-877-669-1292. I'm Howie Silbiger. Sheldon Fried is here with me, and we'd like to hear what you have to say. Are you upset about the Legault government, about the Quebec government saying that it's okay to break COVID lockdowns? It's okay to stop the quarantines for 4 days in December because it's Christmas? But it's not okay for other minority groups to celebrate and to meet their families and to hang out during their holidays. Do you think that's right? 1-877-669-1292. Sheldon, we should be outraged. As a community, we should be outraged. As a people, we should be outraged. As anybody who believes in human rights, we should be outraged.
Well, it's discrimination pure and simple. You're darn tootin' I'm outraged. But again, I'm outraged, but I'm not surprised. And what's going to happen in Easter? What's going to happen in like Pesach? Again, so Easter people will be able to get together, and then in Pesach we will not be able to get together.
Exactly.
So that's what's going to happen.
Completely unacceptable.
And what's going to happen for next fall?
Oh, I mean,
Thanksgiving again will be. I mean, I hope to goodness there'll be a vaccine and we'll be able to start getting our lives back to normal. That would be absolutely fantastic. There's good news that the vaccine. There's a
but Sheldon, even if there is a vaccine, even if a vaccine comes out tomorrow, that doesn't change the wrongness of this decision.
No, it will never change the wrongness. Once it's done, it's done. And they should not have even have done in the first place. Never mind them all of a sudden saying, "Oh my God, a lot of other people other than Christians are upset." Well, they should have thought about this before, and they should have right away said, we're going to put a full-scale lockdown in for everybody.
Or we're going to release everybody. We're going to let everybody do whatever they want. It's one or
Yeah,
the other.
or exactly. But the thing is, for them to do what they did,
If you want to talk about a social
obviously,
contract,
yeah,
allow me to go to my synagogue and pray with my people, and give me a social contract that will follow the rules. I mean,
yeah,
I'm more apt to follow the rules. My synagogue is more apt to follow the rules than some guy living in Saint Jean de Richelieu who wants to meet with his friends to have a beer on Christmas. So,
exactly.
let's be honest here.
Yeah, and the thing is that these past holidays of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Sukkot and Simchas Torah, a lot of people I know that usually went to synagogue, they didn't go this year. They said it was not the same. They couldn't get together with family. Look, my mother's in her 90s.
Yeah.
Kinahor, she has good health, but she couldn't get to. We had to do it through Zoom on certain holidays. I mean, it was absolutely. It was absolutely heartbreaking for everybody, and including my mother, who lives by herself because my father passed away years ago. And it wasn't easy for my mother either. Never mind the rest of us in the family that we couldn't get together. Couldn't get together for the holidays because it means so much to everybody in the family, especially my mother.
Right.
And knowing that we couldn't get together, it really just absolutely, it was so depressing. It was beyond depressing. And then like now for Hanukkah, the same thing for Hanukkah. Sometimes we get together at my brother and sister-in-law's house, or I would get together with my girlfriend or something, get together with the kids, and we'd have a nice Hanukkah dinner. And now we can't do it again this year, and we can't go out, and it's terrible. They had no business. They should have said it's either going to be full scale lockdown, or everybody can get together and do what they want to do. But to systematically say, systematically say that the Catholics can do this and anybody other than Catholics can't, that's unacceptable. Well, that's absolutely unacceptable.
It's discriminatory. It's racist. That's
it's
what I'm going
racist, discriminatory, everything and anything. Anything. Obviously, what the government did was 100%, 1,000,000% wrong.
So, what could we do? What could we do to change the situation, Sheldon? I don't know why I'm having a hard time with words today, but what could we do to change the situation?
Well, the thing is, first of all, people have to get on the bandwagons and start doing a grassroots. As they always see, there's strength in numbers. So the first thing, what I would suggest people to do, but I'm saying everybody, not saying one or two people, because when I hear people saying, oh, this is a waste of time, I'm not saying necessarily to physically demonstrate with COVID and all this stuff, but I'm saying call, send emails to your MNAs, send emails and calls to your MPs. Say that this is unacceptable. In my writing, we have a Jewish MP, a Jewish MP.
MNA.
MNA and MNA, exactly. And the thing is, he would understand this, and I'm sure a lot of people.
Have you heard him say anything about this? I haven't heard a word from him.
No, I did send him an email, but that was as far as it went. I'm sure he's probably going to get a lot of emails.
But he hasn't said a word. Why has a Jewish MNA not gotten up and said anything?
Perhaps we should get him. Perhaps we should get him on our show, Howie.
We could try.
And basically say, why haven't you done anything? Why haven't you said anything with the government? How has the government reacted? We should ask him the hard questions, because look, we put this guy into power. He's representing us. He should answer to us.
He should, but I'm not sure he'll want to. I'm not sure he'll want to come onto the show. Well, we could invite him.
Yeah,
I'm not sure he wants to come. I'm not sure he'll want to come.
Yeah, we should try to invite him and just say, well, look, you represent a good cross-section of the Jewish community. What is going on? Have you received a lot of emails? Have you,
why have you not spoken up? Why are you not screaming and yelling that this is unacceptable?
I mean, I haven't seen anything in the Montreal Gazette. I haven't seen anything in the local newspapers, the Suburban or anything. I've not seen anything about him reacting to anything.
I don't understand. I don't understand why there aren't more people yelling and screaming. I saw an article in the Gazette on Saturday where they quoted two rabbis, the rabbi from the Temple Emmanuel and the rabbi from the Beth Israel Beth Aaron. And the two rabbis basically said the same thing, that this is unacceptable. They also quoted a Muslim guy, one of the Muslim imams from a mosque, And all three said basically essentially the same thing. That's unacceptable. And if it's good for the goose, it has to be good for the gander. And how
Hmm.
could we not allow? How could we allow this to happen? And how could the Quebec government allow this to happen? And it's a little discriminatory against the minority communities.
A little
Yeah,
discriminatory.
yeah, but I haven't heard any of them actually, really getting angry and really screaming. It's kind of you know, I remember seeing this in the Jewish community years ago, and I screamed about it years ago on this show too.
I remember.
Maybe
Yeah,
20,
I remember.
years and years ago. I started screaming about this like 20 years ago, but I've been screaming about this for years. That the Jewish community tends to play down everything. I don't know if it's a Holocaust guilt or they feel that a persecution syndrome of some sort. I'm not sure why they do it, but the Jewish community tends to play things down. So when they're slighted, and this is a slight to the Jewish community and a slight to every other community, when communities are slighted, the Jewish community tends to back off. So try to do this with the black community. They'll be out in the streets screaming and yelling and holding up posters. Do this to the Jewish community and it's quiet. And if you speak up like I do, and I speak up a lot, when you speak up, they tell you to quiet down. They tell you to shut up. You know how many times I've been told to shut up over the years, Sheldon? You have any idea?
I remember you were telling me off air, and you told me a lot of times what you were faced with. Yeah.
And you know how many times I've been blacklisted and not given jobs and not considered for positions only because I do this radio show and because I talk loudly and I speak my mind. It happens a lot. And I sacrifice it not because I'm a hero, Sheldon. I sacrifice because it's the right thing to do.
Hmm.
So when the Jewish community is slapped in the face, like the Legault government just slapped the Jewish community in the face, somebody has to be up front and yelling, hey, this is not acceptable. Somebody has to be up front and yelling, hey, Jewish community, what the hell are you doing? Why are you allowing this to happen? Why have you not been screaming and yelling? And yeah, okay, maybe Federation is working backdoor politics. That's possible. But that doesn't help the average Jew who's sitting here looking at this going, 1 second, I haven't seen my grandkids in almost a year, and now they could meet 10 people and then 10 people and then 10 people again. They could have 300 people come to their house over the course of 4 days, and that's okay, but I can't go and hug my grandchild? It's unacceptable.
Yeah. Look, even me, I haven't seen my mother in months. I haven't seen my kids since last August.
Unacceptable.
Like it's ridiculous. I can't even go for families places during the holidays. I'm totally alone,
Yeah, it's totally wrong.
and it's wrong. And people are even committing suicide. They can't take it anymore, especially people in seniors' homes.
Yeah.
There was a 90-year-old woman that was very, very healthy, fit as a fiddle, and she was mentally sharp. And then all of a sudden, when the family used to visit her, and all of a sudden the family can't visit her anymore, she got mentally depressed, and eventually she got the green light to go to have doctors assisted suicide.
It's very sad.
Yeah, she's one of many, I'm sure. And a lot of people aren't talking about that either, but I'm sure a lot of people have ended their lives tragically because they just can't even see their own family anymore.
Well, I can only imagine.
It's like being a prisoner.
Yeah, you are a prisoner. You're a prisoner.
And
You're under house arrest. You
never committed a crime and you did nothing, but you're under house arrest.
1-877-669-1292. Join in on the conversation. 1-877-669-1292. Now, look, lockdowns and quarantines have worked in the past, but they've only worked when you lock down and quarantine the people who are sick and take them away from the people who are healthy. This is the first time in history that people who are healthy have been locked down, as well as people who are sick. And there's really no reason for it. And that's the worst part about the whole thing. Let's be honest here. And can we be honest on the show here? Because I like to be honest. The survival rate of COVID for people who don't have a pre-existing condition and who are under the age of 70, okay, under the age of 70 and don't have a pre-existing condition is 99.94%. That's the survival rate. Locking down 98% of the population for a disease that has a 99.4 survival rate, doesn't make sense. It's not logical, Sheldon. That's all
Mhm.
I'm saying. It's just not logical. Fine, you want to protect the vulnerable? We know who the vulnerable are. People know that they're sick. People know they have underlying conditions. And if they have underlying conditions, they know they have underlying conditions. Fine. Look, they could make the choice to quarantine themselves. They can make the choice to be careful, to wear a mask, to wash their hands as we normally supposed to do anyway, right? And to and to watch out for themselves. But the majority of people should be able to live their lives freely. We should be able to go back to work and go back to restaurants and go back to doing everything. People who are careful. Look, if I have an allergy, and I know I have an allergy to certain foods, I'm careful when I go to a restaurant. If I know I'm vulnerable to a certain situation, I avoid that situation as much as possible. Sometimes you can't avoid it, but when you can, you do, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So here we have a situation where it's a very, very survivable disease for the majority of the people in the world, and we're still being locked down. And that's a power play by the government. That has nothing to do with health. And that's all I'm saying. So if it's a power play by the government, and the government likes the power, and fine, give them the power. You want the power? Take the power. But use the power equally. So if you're going to tell me I have to sit at home, and I can't see my mother, and I can't see my grandchildren, I can't see anybody. I don't have grandchildren, but you know what I mean. I'm talking pejoratively, right?
Right. Right.
And we can't see our grandchildren. We can't go and we can't see our friends and our family. If you're going to tell me I can't do that, then don't come out with a statement that people can meet for one holiday, for 4 days. Don't give a 4-day pass for certain people, because that's unacceptable.
And the same thing's going to happen for New Year's Eve. They'll do the same thing.
Because that's unacceptable.
They're going to do the same thing for.
Well, they said no to New Year's, but that's unacceptable anyway. Any way you want to slice it, it's unacceptable. There's no rational reason that we should accept this. And the people who are being allowed to get together to party, the people who do celebrate Christmas, who are allowed to get together and party, should be outraged too. Because then suddenly they have to be thinking, does my life matter? If you're telling me that it's dangerous for everybody else in the world to meet for holidays, to go to synagogue, to go to church, it's dangerous for anybody to meet, even in the street. If you're not wearing a mask, you shouldn't really do it, and you should be very careful. If it's dangerous for everybody, then why doesn't the government care about my life, and why are they allowing me to go and party on Christmas and allow me to catch COVID and die? What about my grandparents? This is what people who are allowed to do it should be asking.
Yeah, it's true.
So why am I so special that I could catch COVID and give it to my old people and let them die? What makes me so special? This would be the question. If I was a Christian and the government told me, oh, you know what, we're suspending COVID for you. Go ahead, do whatever you want. The question I would be asking is, why does the government want to kill me? That would be the question I'm asking.
I guess the government considers the Christians their chosen people.
Chosen to die? Chosen to get sick? I don't understand.
Chosen people. You could fill in the blanks, but that's what the government is doing.
I don't understand, because that would be the question I'd be asking. Why am I so special that I get to catch the disease and die?
But but remember, if you're still healthy, you have nothing to worry about. If you're 90, 94, whatever the statistics you did before.
But the 99.4% that aren't affected, or that only have mild symptoms or can survive COVID easily, they might be in contact with a vulnerable person. And if they're carrying the disease, they could give the disease to somebody it could kill.
Exactly. Like, they may not realize that they're a carrier, or they have it, but they're not sick themselves, but they are carriers. And they may not be. They probably are not aware. They're probably 99.99% aware that they're actually carrying the disease. And if they come across someone who has an immune deficiency, or diabetic or high blood pressure, pre-existing condition, that could be devastating. That really could be.
So while I am sure that someone like me, who doesn't have any pre-existing conditions, I'm a healthy guy. If I contracted COVID, which thank God I haven't yet, but if I contracted COVID, I'm pretty sure that it would be like a mild cold for me, or maybe even a major cold, but it would pass in a few days, and I would get it and forget about it. I'm pretty sure that I could survive it. But what if I got it and I'm asymptomatic, and then I suddenly run into Sheldon Freed in the middle of the street, and we have a conversation. And I'm wearing my mask, he's wearing his mask, but, masks are only 93% effective, right? And I pass this disease on to Sheldon, and Sheldon is immunocompromised. Sheldon has asthma, he has diabetes, he has a whole bunch of other things wrong with him. He's old. And I pass this stuff.
Okay, you see, long-suffering producer. Can you forget the age too?
I pass all this stuff to my aged, sickly friend.
Jeez.
And my aged, sickly friend, Sheldon Eric Freed, catches the corona. He gets really sick, God forbid, and it's my fault. How would I feel about this?
Yeah, have respect for your elders.
Exactly. How would I feel about this? That's the question.
Smart aleck.
1-877-669-1292 is the number to call in. 1-877-669-1292. Get in on the conversation. I'm here. My elderly friend is here. We could talk to you.
Hold it. You're here. What's your name?
My name is Howie Silbiger.
Okay, I'm here. What's my name?
My elderly friend, Sheldon Eric Freed.
My name, not the age.
Sheldon Eric Freed is here.
Thank you. Let's keep it at that, shall we?
Yeah, he's the old man of the show.
Here we go.
We keep him on because we like hiring geriatrics. I'm
not getting paid for this. What hiring?
Oh, that's true. That's true.
You're not getting paid for this either. So
wait a second. Okay, fine, no problem. But Sheldon, seriously, Sheldon, if I caught the corona, and I gave it to you, inadvertently, and you got sick, how would I feel about that? Would that make me feel good? No.
No, obviously it wouldn't make you feel good.
Would I be upset about it? Of course I'd be upset about it. And if you, God forbid, got really sick and ended up hospitalized, or God forbid, even worse than that, I mean, that would really devastate somebody, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it would definitely devastate.
So why is the government setting people up to kill people? I don't understand. Are they trying to cull the population? Is this the idea?
Yeah, but Howie, do you remember the same thing with the so-called herd immunity that they believed that when sending students to school, that they'd infect other people? And that was debunked by every single scientific research from here to Kalamazoo and back.
Right.
So, I mean, the government is using people like guinea pigs. This is exactly what they're doing. They're using herd immunity. They were using the kids, the kids to be able to to be able to have close contact, whatever. Look, even when the schools first opened, Howie, you know that right away the kids were not required to wear masks when they were inside the class. They had to wear masks inside public areas like the washrooms, the hallways. But once they were in the class, they were not obliged at the time to wear masks. Now they are.
Right.
But now it's too late. Now here's another thing too. When the schools opened up, and I don't care what anybody says, there was a huge hike in the amount of people that were infected by the virus because the government didn't have long-range planning before they decided to open up the schools. Had they had the proper long-range planning and then opened up the schools, that would have been a separate thing. But it was like everybody was on their own, and it was like they were doing patchwork as things were going. There was no widespread. There were no meetings in the summertime. There was nothing when the schools were shut down on the 13th or the 16th of March, when most of the schools were in lockdown. Why didn't then the government get together and say, look, we have to open up the schools, but let's plan and how we're able to do this? The government question. Never bothered planning. So you are a guinea pig. My girlfriend is a guinea pig. Okay, anybody that's teaching, support thing, and the students themselves and their parents are all guinea pigs because the government doesn't care.
It's true. It's true. The government doesn't care about you or me, Sheldon.
So everybody was considered as a guinea pig. Then the government had to go to lockdown. Then they had a partial lockdown over a month and a half ago. Yet the cases kept going up. Thousands and thousands of kids were affected, like different classes and different schools were shutting down because one kid would get it maybe from their parents who might have taught another school who had it. Like the government never bothered to think. Not once did the government ever take this in consideration. They said everybody has to get back to work. Everybody has to do this. Yes, I would love everything. I would love everything to get back to normal too. You would love everything to get back to normal.
For sure.
But the thing is, the government failed to plan anything for it to get back to normal. Instead of being on the offensive, they were on the defensive. They said, oh, let's close up everything. If they were planning to open up everything, why didn't they put a lot of plans in place before? And because COVID, it didn't just happen yesterday. It happened a few days after I got back from the Caribbean. It happened
nearly a year ago.
The 13th. It's nearly a year now.
Yeah, it's
and look how many people have died. Look how many people have gotten sick.
Yeah.
And the governments, all governments have failed miserably. Not just the government here, the United States of America, other countries around the world. They have failed miserably.
It's true. It is true, Sheldon. It is true. All right, Sheldon, we have a few minutes left to the show, so I just wanted to throw it to you if you have any news to give us.
Yes, as a matter of fact,
I would love to hear some other news.
Well, we got a bunch of really whack job Canadian laws.
Oh,
like speaking of Canada, so like an example, like when it comes to Canada, you would think like you're a law-abiding citizen. It's possible you might have broken some of these strange Canadian laws without even realizing it. Okay, you'd be surprised to learn what's against the law in Canada. For example, recently, a Toronto businessman found that to sell edible underwear in his adult entertainment store, he would require a food license. Who knew?
What?
Exactly. Okay.
Is he manufacturing it? Wait. Is he manufacturing it in his store?
Distributing.
So he needs a food license. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
All right.
It's also illegal to whistle in Petrolia, Ontario.
It's illegal to whistle.
It's illegal to whistle in Petrolia, Ontario. A Petrolia city rep says this unusual law simply aims to limit excessive noise between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. But according to Article 3, 772.3.6 on the town's website, yelling, shouting, hooting, whistling, or singing is prohibited at all times. Keep your enthusiasm to yourself, folks.
Yeah, don't bother people.
Yeah, and another thing, to keep your booze at home. According to the Importation of Intoxicating Liquors Act, which dates back to the time of Prohibition and bootleggers, you can only legally move a bottle of booze from one province to another with the permission of the Provincial Liquor Control Board. The situation changed on May 28th, 2012. 8 years ago, this has changed, allowing you to legally move wine, but little s. Guess your moonshining days are over, huh, boys? And it's illegal in Sudbury.
Got to speak to Uncle Jesse about this.
Yeah, for sure. And in Sudbury, Ontario, it's illegal to attach a siren to your bike. Since 1973, the only noisemakers Sudbury cyclists can attach to their bikes are bells and horns. Breaking noise bylaws in Sudbury can lead to fines up to $5,000.
Really?
Yeah.
$5,000.
Yep.
Wow.
Another really interesting law, like as if we really needed a law.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's illegal, Howie, to skinny dip in Bancroft, Ontario.
Not allowed skinny dipping.
Not allowed skinny dipping.
Now, tell me, is skinny dipping still a thing? I know it was a thing back when you were a kid, like 900 years ago. But is it still a thing today?
Wrong suffering producer. What? Sorry. No, it's. Let's put it this way. There was a song in the 1970s called "The Streak."
Yeah.
Okay, and that was very popular in the 1970s and the 60s in the hippie movement.
Right.
That people used to streak freedom of expression.
Yeah, but 2020, is it still a problem?
No.
I don't think too many people are skinny dipping today.
You do sometimes have nude beaches in certain areas, but I don't know. I don't even know in Canada, but I know in certain Caribbean spots they do have nude beaches. So, but and also, let's put it this way: you remember the days of people wearing Speedo swimsuits, Howie?
Yeah, those are gone, long gone.
Yeah, and I remember when I once went with a good friend of mine to Florida for Christmas, and I remember the day that we were coming back, to Montreal, and there was the, shall we say, a very overweight fellow wearing a Speedo. That really, that really was not too pleasant, to say the least. Not to mention the fact that for the last week afterwards, I couldn't get it out of my head. Okay, so
visions of Sugar Plum dancing in your head. Yes, I understand.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I can tell you, while it won't make you a lawbreaker according to Canada's Currency Act of 1985, I don't know if you ever thought about this, Howie, but there are limits to the number of coins you can use in a transaction. Now that we put the kibosh on the old penny, are you accumulating nickels? If it's nickels, vendors can say no to any purchase over $5, while the loonie limit is $25.
Really?
Yeah.
In all of Canada?
That's what it's saying. I mean, you can go to the bank, and I know they have these machines that they can take the currency and give it into dollar bills.
Yeah.
So yeah, they could do something like that. And apparently in Halifax, Nova Scotia, I don't know if you ever knew this, Howie, because we try to expand the knowledge here at TrueTalkRadio.com. Apparently in Halifax, Nova Scotia, write this down, people that are going to Halifax that are thinking of becoming a taxi driver. Well, according to the Halifax's regional municipality bylaws for taxis and limousines, number 42A, stipulates drivers must wear shoes and socks, keep their attire in neat and tidy condition at all times, and absolutely cannot, and I repeat, cannot wear a T-shirt. Looks like summer is going to get a whole lot hotter for cabbies in Halifax.
Didn't Quebec change the law a few years ago for cabbies too? They had to wear button-down shirts.
I'm not sure.
They had to paint that bonjour on the side of their cabs.
Anything's possible. I guess I'll speak to the next time I take a taxi. I'll find out. And apparently, it was illegal for non-dark soft drinks to contain caffeine. It used to be the case that Sprite, Mountain Dew, remember those drinks?
Yeah.
And other non-dark soft drinks couldn't contain caffeine. But that all changed in March 2010 with the advent of energy drinks like Red Bull. Now you can have caffeine in soft drinks like orange and grape soda, but there's a limit, and it's still lower than colas.
I wonder why.
Yeah, and I know people like to have snowmen. I know, like when you were a kid, you like to build snowmen and put a keep on top of them.
I seem to be. I come across as the guy who went out to build snowmen when I was a kid?
Well, yeah, but like there was actually a cartoon called Frosty the Snowman.
But does this sound like me? Do I sound like the guy? Or look like the guy who would have gone out to buy a snowman, to build a snowman, buy a snowman.
Well,
to build
I can see you smoking a pipe and doing that because, I mean, after all, I am very, very old. You're a long-suffering producer,
and you can stick it in your pipe and.
I could stick things to you too, also, But apparently in Surrey, and I'm not saying the Jewish expression, or Surrey, PEI, it's illegal to build big snowmen.
How big is big?
Well, I'm glad that you asked. Source PEI is well known to summer visitors for its curious singing sands beach, but few know of a local law that warns residents against building monstrous snowmen. If you live on a corner lot, it's against the law to build a snowman taller than 30 inches.
30 inches.
Fear of Frosty's revenge much?
So let's see, 12 inches is 1 foot, 24 inches would be 2 feet. So
like 2.5 feet.
2.5 feet. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a pretty small snowman.
Yeah, and it's another one is get your margarine out of here. Few may remember this, but thanks to lobbying by dairy farmers, it was illegal to sell butter-colored margarine in the province of Ontario until 1995.
Right.
As a matter of fact, margarine was altogether banned in Canada from 1886 to 1948.
Right.
There was only a brief reprieve during the First World War. And apparently you just can't jump in the lake in the city of Toronto. According to the Toronto Port Authority, I'm sure Mark David would be interested in hearing this, you can't swim anywhere in the harbor that has not been designated as a swimming area by the city of Toronto. So if you're out on a boat and want to cool off, keep this in mind. Historically, there was also a law that you couldn't swim in Toronto Harbor in less than seemingly attire. 12 inches is 1 foot, 24 inches would be 2 feet. So like 2.5 feet. Yeah.
So let's see, 12 inches is 1 foot, 24 inches would be 2 feet. So 12 inches is 1 foot, 24 inches would be 2 feet. So let's see, 12 inches is 1 foot, 24 inches would be 2 feet. So let's see, 12 inches is 1 foot, 24 inches would be 2 feet. So let's see, 12 inches is 1 foot, 24 inches would be 2 feet. So let's see, 12 inches is 1 foot, 24 inches would be 2 feet. So let's see, 12 inches is 1 foot, 24 inches would be 2 feet. So let's see, 12 inches is 1 foot, 24 inches would be 2 feet. So let's see, 12 inches is 1 foot, 24 inches would be 2 feet. So let's see, 12 inches is 1 foot, 24 inches would be 2 feet. So let's see, 12 inches is 1 foot, 24
Could you imagine? And
So
apparently,
no,
speaking of
so
nude beaches,
no skinny dipping is what they're basically saying.
yeah, and they're
Yeah.
also saying that a travel writer by the name of Mark Stevens pointed out this bylaw allowing police to ticket skinny dippers when the beach at Hanlon's Point on the Toronto Islands gained popularity as a nude beach. That bylaw has been updated in recent years. Now you can officially swim in the buff if you're at the nude section of the beach.
Exciting.
Yeah, really exciting. Okay.
Sheldon, have you ever been to a nude beach?
No. Oh, God, no. Oh, God. No, Siri. It's hard enough to picture.
I love that reaction.
It's hard enough when I saw that. Well, I should pardon the pun. It was difficult enough when you start seeing people in speedos.
Oh no! Oh God, no!
Never mind in the buff. Okay, so
oh, that was so funny.
yeah, exactly. And very important. Keep your comic magazines clean.
Yes.
My spidey sense just started tingling. The way Canadian law currently stands, Howie.
Yeah.
Quote: everyone commits an offense who B makes, prints, publishes, distributes, sells, or has in his possession for the purpose of publication, distribution, or circulation a crime comic.
Where is this?
This is all over the country.
In Canada.
In Canada, yeah.
Okay, why?
It doesn't mention why, but it's just one of those.
So you're not allowed
laws.
You're not allowed owning a crime comic.
Well, a dirty crime.
A dirty crime.
In other words,
comic.
You have to keep your comics clean.
I see.
In other words, not a lot of stains. Don't spill your Corona beer or anything like that on it.
That is the oddest law in the world.
Well, I'm aimed to deliver this strange news. That's what I get off on doing. And apparently clotheslines were banned. Now, this is another thing that I'm so glad we have in the building, that we do not put our clothes out on the clotheslines.
Yeah.
Because in this building, it's actually in our lease that it's against the law to do that. It's against the the landlord will not tolerate it. Thank God. Because the last thing I want to see are clothes on the line from elderly people.
Mm.
Okay, never mind young people, never mind anybody.
Are an elderly person.
But I never put clothes on a clothesline, Howie.
Okay. It's a good point.
See?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, apparently the clotheslines were being banned. Now, talk about being hung out to dry. Many Canadian communities long restricted the use of clotheslines because they just didn't like the look of them. No kidding. Now, because of increased energy consciousness, most provincial governments have stepped in with a ruling that now overrides neighborhood regulations. Now, apparently in St. Paul, Alberta, St. Paul residents don't have to worry about their kids sneaking out late at night. Why, you ask?
Why, Sheldon?
I'm glad that you asked, Howie.
I'm glad I asked too.
See what happens when you miss rehearsal? It's against the law for anyone 15 or younger to loiter in a public place without supervision of a parent or guardian between 12:01 a.m. and 6 a.m. Take that, whippersnappers. And that's the funny and strange Canadian laws in the news this week.
All right, so you heard it from Grandpa Sheldon. Thank you, Grandpa Sheldon. Thank you for sharing that with us, Grandpa Sheldon. We're just about out of time. Thank you, Sheldon Fried, for joining me. Appreciate it. Thank you all for listening. We'll be back again next week. Why my voice just crack?
Speaking of old, huh?
I don't know.
Say that I'm old. My voice didn't crack.
My voice
cracked.
My voice just cracked. I have no idea why. I'm not 14 years old. Why did my voice crack? Doesn't make sense.
See that shows the lack of respect you have for your long-suffering producer.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Somebody got you back.
All right, that's it. That's all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again.
Thank you so much for listening, everybody. And tweet Howie, will you, please?
We'll see you again. We'll see you again next week, right here on the Howie Silbiger Show. I hope so. Right here on the Howie Silbiger Show, here on the True Talk Radio Network. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. Search out the Howie Silbiger Show. You want to talk politics? Feel free to join the Howie Silbiger group on Facebook.
Try that
And-
again.
Yeah, sure.
Howie Silbiger. What?
You could join the Howie Silbiger group on Facebook. You could join the
Boy.
like the Howie Silbiger Show page on Facebook, and
Attaboy.
of course,
Of course.
I'll be back again on Tuesday with the Howie Silbiger Show and then Political Hitman right here on the True Talk Radio Network. We'll see you then.